Hi everybody, my name is Jules and I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager at SMATS Group. I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar this afternoon, Australian Residency Tax Changes and Tax Implications for Expats. I'd also like to welcome our friends and co-hosts from ANZCHAM Taipei and Japan, as well as AusCham Korea, Thailand, Laos, Mongolia, Beijing, South China and West China. And we've got a special mention to Julian Lawrence, the chairperson of AusCham Mongolia. Hello.
Hi.
As well as Alex Matos, the executive director of ANZCHAM Taipei. Hi.
Thanks, Jules.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with SMATS Group, we're international leaders in providing Australian tax, finance and property services to Aussie expats, foreign investors, as well as intended migrants to Australia. And we've been doing so since 1995. We've also been recognised as a top 100 accounting firm by the Australian Financial Review Awards in 2019 and 2020, and hopefully in 2021. So before we kick off, if you do have any questions during the webinar, please simply type them into either the Q&A area or the chat room. And we'll endeavour to answer as many of those towards the end of the webinar as possible. So now I'd like to introduce the founder and executive chair of SMATS Group, who'll be presenting tonight, Mr. Steve Douglas. Steve is a chartered tax advisor, a fellow of the Taxation Institute of Australia and a registered tax agent. So over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, well, I've got the pleasure of taking you through some of these issues affecting us in regards to residency, and it's certainly a hot topic, you know, and before I start, I'd just like to do a shout out to all the chambers, you know, Julian and Alex and co. You know, they do an extremely important job, you know, out in our international communities and keeping everyone connected. So we greatly appreciate them joining us today and helping us get the message out. And I'm sure we're all about to link arms and do what we can to try and get some sensible outcomes in all this residency issue. I'm just going to bring up my slides and we'll get straight into it. I know everybody will be quite anxious. So let me just jump in. Okay, and there's a fair bit to go through. I mean, obviously, all of this has come about in recent time thanks to a little notation in the budget, you know, saying that there was going to be some changes to the residency. And of course, you know, the rumour mill's going crazy, everybody's nervous and worried. So hopefully today we'll provide a little bit of clarity, a little bit of conversation, a little bit of thought and a bit of action, you know, that we can do to help ourselves going forward. So without further ado, I'll get straight into it. And I'll just start obviously with a disclaimer. Obviously, you know, these are, you know, personal views. Please don't act on these without getting personal advice, particularly because they're not yet law. So don't panic or anything like that. Don't go and sell anything. Don't go and do anything crazy. Calm, relax, wait and see what happens. That's probably the real message of the day. So you just think about that. So let's start with what's going on. And basically what we've got is the outcome of an initial review in 2017, and then a report, you know, going through that review that was submitted in March 2019. Now that's gone and done an extensive look at the residency issue, and the government, you know, like I say, in the May 2021 budget around about 6 weeks ago, put a little paragraph saying, look, we think we should just, you know, look to implement these. Importantly, both of these reviews were done in a pre-COVID world. And I think that's an important thing to remember here, because they're talking about number of days in Australia, mobility, all these things that used to be very free and easy in the good old days. But now, of course, we're all living with COVID. We're now into our 18th month in COVID. It certainly impacted lots. I, for example, am a COVID refugee still in Perth, dying to get home to Singapore, but, you know, just can't do it. Every time I'm about to leave, there's an outbreak. They keep talking about bubbles. You know, air costs have gone up, movements there. I've got to get permissions. It's not the same world we knew 18 months ago. It's a crazy old situation. And that has a massive bearing on some of the things that were discussed in the review and the report. I also want to reiterate absolutely categorically that as at today, which is basically 29th of June 21, these are not yet laws. These are proposals. It's a discussion paper. We have not even seen legislation. And that's very, very important, because I have seen already some people saying, oh, get a ruling, get this, get that. You can't get a ruling for something that is not yet law. We don't even know what the rules will be. We don't know what the potential for the wording will be. So do not go and jump off the boats, in expectation of what may or may not happen until you actually see what's coming down the line. It's very, very important to keep a cool head. As a reference point, the earliest that this will come in will be 1st of July 2022. Now, in the budget, they did say it would come into effect on the 1st of July in the financial year following getting royal assent. Now, that was unlikely to happen prior to 30th of June 2021, so it may happen over the next 12 months, or it may even take another year longer. Interestingly, in the report, they have clearly stated that their recommendation is to allow a long period of implementation. So the Board of Taxation, who prepared this report and have made these recommendations, they themselves are suggesting a long line of transition. So it's important not to worry about it too much too early, but especially until we see the legislation. What they're trying to do is good old-fashioned simplification. But of course, simplification to the market and the general community is a very different concept to simplification to government and taxation department. They're trying to make it easy, but in doing so, they often make it hard. Now, some of the things that they'll talk about, today, you'll see are actually positive steps in the right direction. Others are backward steps, and probably where we'll end up is hopefully somewhere in the middle. One of the big changes is the 183 days test. Now, that has always been there, as you'll see in a moment, but it used to have the commissioner with some level of discretion. They want to take discretion out and just say very simply, if you're in Australia more than 183 days, you are a tax resident. And that is quite logical in all truth. So that shouldn't be of great concern to most people. What is of concern is the second test, which is what they call the factor test, which kicks in if you are potentially in Australia more than 45 days. Now, this has been the most contentious issue because 45 days used to sound like a long time, but it's not anymore. Not when you factor in quarantining, when you factor in the high cost of travel, when you factor in the difficulty of mobility. 45 days is now a very short period of time. So that's something we'll touch upon later. And it's probably something that we really want to cluster as a group and target for change, because that's probably the real area of problem with these proposals. And interestingly, what they're trying to remove is the intention to remove intent. The whole crux of residency laws up until now has been, what is your long-term intention? When you're leaving Australia to become a non-resident, are you intending to live overseas for a prolonged time? The ATO uses 2 years as a measure. If you're coming to Australia as a resident, are you intending to live in Australia for a long time? Intention has been the central point of residency law for almost since day one. And that's what they're trying to get rid of, because intention is subjective.